All right, welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to be talking about PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So we're going to talk about what is it, how do you know if you have it, and what do you do if you have it. And I think the first thing I want to say is that PMDD is not physical symptoms like cramping or heavy periods or anything like that. These are all psychological symptoms. So you have to have these psychological symptoms to even maybe have PMDD.
Yeah. And because of the root causes of PMDD, a lot of people happen to have bad cycles and cramping at the same time as it. But yeah, that's actually not part of the disorder, like in its technical classification, which our lovely resident therapist, Katie, knows all about the technical classifications.
Yeah. So this is something that both of us have worked with or could work with. So it falls into like health, physical health and mental health realm. I personally haven't worked with anyone that has it. And I mentioned in our last episode, I worked with a therapist who specialized in this. And yeah, this is one of those things where like you need both. You don't just need a therapist or a doctor. Like you probably need both for this because it's pretty intense. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead. What is it? So, according to the DSM, I'm going to look at this here. You have to have at least 5 of these symptoms. If it's only 3, if it's only 4, you don't meet the diagnostic criteria. You have to have 5 of these. And they have to start happening a week before your period. And then in the week after your period, they have to markedly drop off, meaning they basically do not exist anymore.
And stay tuned, even if you don't have all of these, because just because you don't meet the diagnostic criteria, the root causes are actually probably the same. And we're going to talk about what can you do to address the root causes.
Yeah. Yep. So even if you just have one of these, like it's still probably something you don't love and would like to correct. But all right. So what are the symptoms? They are marked affective liability, which means mood swings, like severe mood swings, intense sadness, intense depression, intense anger, marked irritability or anger, or increased interpersonal conflicts. So a lot of times people will have a really hard time just like dealing with their partner. They might start a lot of fights. They might also kind of fall into this pattern of, oh my gosh, what if they hate me? And I'm super anxious about this relationship out of nowhere when normally everything is fine. Number 3, markedly depressed moods, feelings of hopelessness or self-deprecating thoughts. So kind of what I just mentioned. Market anxiety, tension, and or feelings of being keyed up or on edge. So everyone is anxious sometimes. I'm talking like not just kind of anxious, like very anxious about something for absolutely no reason. Decreased interest in usual activities, difficulty concentrating, being easily fatigued, lack of energy, a change in appetite, which is usually overeating or specific food cravings, hypersomnia or insomnia, so sleeping too much or not being able to sleep at all, a sense of being overwhelmed or out of control. And then there are actually some physical symptoms, it says, such as breast tenderness or swelling, joint or muscle pain, or a sensation of being really bloated. And that would be like in addition to 4 of these other psychological symptoms. So these are all really severe psychological symptoms that people notice and other people around them notice. Like you kind of become a different person the week before your period. And then once it's over, you go back to normal. So that's really dysregulating for that person and for people in their life.
Yeah. With the people I've worked with who have this, the hardest part is the family dynamic.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's such a cyclical thing and it just pops up after ovulation and then disappears when your period starts. And so it's hard on everyone, the person who has it, the family, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of these, when they say like marked, you know, increase in depression, whatever, like we mean suicidal. Lots of people with PMDD become suicidal.
Yeah. You feel like life is just not worth living for those 2 weeks. It's hard for people to travel and plan trips, and they're worried if that trip falls during that 2 weeks of their cycle because they know it's not going to be a good time and they're going to have a really hard time on the trip. So most people I know who deal with this try to like stay home, isolate during this time, not take on extra work projects, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And also, like, yeah, I didn't even think about most people have a 9 to 5 job. Can you imagine going to work like that or school
Yeah.
like that? Like, that would be, to me, that sounds almost impossible. I don't know
Yeah.
how I would quite be able to do that.
And what I think is interesting is, so if you had some of those symptoms, but you didn't have all of them, it's a little bit of a spectrum of like, is your imbalance severe enough to trigger the severity that we have labeled as PMDD? And even if it's not, I mean, not everyone got PMDD overnight. Sometimes it did start as, just some of these and then it increased over time. But I will say that as someone who has now worked with people who have PMDD, it's definitely offensive to people with PMDD if you're like, oh, I have really bad PMS too. Like, this is not bad
Not
PMS.
the same thing.
This is a whole nother level, you guys. This is like, you are a different human. Like, you have no will to live practically for 2 weeks.
And people with PMDD, they also fully know that, and this is like words I've heard them say, I'm acting crazy. I feel crazy. And they fully know that something is wrong, but they can't help it because this is a hormonal imbalance
Physical.
going on. Yeah, there's actually something going on in their brain. They're not making it up. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people think, oh, they're just being dramatic. No, they are
Yeah.
not.
And we love therapy for the coping tools, the relationship support, all of that. But yeah, anytime someone with PMDD told me that someone told them, like, just go to therapy, that's like telling someone with a broken leg to just go talk about it. Like, that doesn't fix your leg, it's physical.
Yeah. Yeah, and from a mental health and like safety standpoint, yeah, you need someone to talk to who
You need a
understands
safety plan.
safety plan if you do become suicidal. You need someone outside of your family to lean on. But then, so you can do that with a therapist, with someone like me. What do you do with people who have PMDD? How do you help them, Rachel?
Yeah. And this kind of like, overlaps in our what to do, because what to do would be address the root causes. And so I'm looking for the root causes that I know are there based on how the body functions. This is not anything you'd find in a textbook. This is not part of like the conventional med treatment algorithm or even the functional, but it makes sense if you think about what's happening, that this is a combination of hormone changes, obviously, like that's what's fluctuating throughout the cycle. So usually people are having like crazy estrogen dominance and huge progesterone drops, and maybe their LH and FSH hormones aren't balanced. So there's a lot of hormone balancing and hormones that are out of balance with this. And then usually nutrients. There's usually nutrient deficiency going on. And nutrients are really important because they're the raw materials that our body uses to make everything. So it's like, how are you going to build a house if you don't have the things to construct with? And so we need our nutrients to build our neurotransmitters and regulate inflammation and regulate our stress hormones and all of that.
Question, like what kind of nutrient deficiency? Because this is new to
Yeah.
me. I haven't heard about this.
I mean, it can be across the board. Like even really low vitamin D can affect this. But then the classic one people think of is B vitamins, because you really need your B's to make your neurotransmitters.
Okay.
But there's some neurotransmitters that you need like zinc and like minerals and stuff for. So it's really all of them. Like literally, I could think of a reason why every single one would have an influence.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was not something I'd ever heard, so I was curious.
Yeah, yeah. And our nutrients calm our inflammation and our histamine, which is another one of the root causes that I like to look at. Like if we're low in vitamin C, it's really hard to keep our histamine levels regulated. And so to see if histamine is a part of someone's PMDD, I usually have them do a Benadryl trial if it's safe for them, depending on their health history, and take Benadryl at night for that right before they would start ovulation. So like right before they'd get their symptoms. And shockingly, it helps a lot of people, which confirms that they have a big inflammation component.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because
Why?
histamine affects your brain. Like histamine messes up all of your other neurotransmitters. and it's so inflammatory in the brain. And other types of inflammation can affect it too. People with autoimmune conditions and like anything that's going to create more inflammation in the body seem to be more prone to have PMDD, in my opinion, from who I've worked with.
Yeah, that would make sense. So I know from like a conventional standpoint, I know a lot of these people get put on birth control and a lot of
Yeah.
them take SSRIs for the part of their cycle where
Yeah.
the psychological symptoms.
Yeah. And the SSRIs are anti-inflammatory. So a lot of people with histamine
Right.
issues, yeah, do well with certain SSRIs. And then that's why some people flop on certain SSRIs is because there are certain ones that actually increase your histamine. So there's like a few that we always avoid if someone has PMDD, but that's not in the literature. So like I think that's only people who've noticed that know enough to not prescribe those.
Which ones are those? I'm just curious because I talk about SSRIs
Yeah.
with people a lot.
So Zoloft and Lexapro and lamotrigine, which isn't an SSRI, but those are best for people who have like histamine issues going on. So
Mhm.
probably those are going to be successful in people with PMDD. And then Paxil and Prozac are a no.
Okay.
Those are the two that are an absolute no with histamine issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people can get like look into neurotransmitter testing, see what's going on.
Yeah, that's the biggest one. If you can only do one thing, like test your neurotransmitters.
And how do we do that? We pee in a cup.
We pee in a cup and you just check it with your urine, and we do 4 times a day for it to be the most accurate because your serotonin, dopamine, GABA, and some other stuff are probably really off if you have PMDD.
Yep. So I think that episode actually comes out tomorrow. So it'll be by the time you're
This is
hearing
out. Yeah.
that episode will be out. It's a whole episode on neurotransmitter testing. So look for that. So you can go pee in a cup, get your neurotransmitters tested.
Yeah, you can fix your nutrients, which you don't even need testing for most of it. You can get your hormones checked or do general hormone balancing stuff with someone who's probably more holistic minded. And then histamine, don't recommend checking that one with labs. It's not worth it. Too hard to catch. But usually I just do a trial of histamine lowering stuff to see how it works. And there's other stuff besides Benadryl we can trial with. And then, I mean, tracking is like really important because
Yeah.
people notice when they feel worse. They don't notice when they feel better. So like it's harder, like have someone else in your family help you gauge someone who you trust, who you won't feel like is who you won't be annoyed with for evaluating you and have them track for you. Be like, rate you out of like your mood out of 10, like something like really simple, and then just see if things are getting better.
Yeah. I also would recommend that if you are like a family member or partner of someone who has PMDD, it might be really helpful for you to go to therapy with them to better understand what's going on and learn how you can support them and also learn how to take care of yourself
Yeah.
while this is going on because it's going to affect you too if you're living with this person or if you really care about this person. So I would also suggest that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really hard to do stuff when you don't feel good. Like when your brain is affected, that makes it the hardest thing possible to make changes and do new things. And what I find is most people I talk to who have PMDD think that they need to overhaul their whole diet, change their whole sleep schedule, fix their kids' sleep schedule, change what restaurants they eat at. Like, and it's all too daunting and too overwhelming because your brain is literally inflamed, which is why you're having PMDD. And so, like, don't think of it like that. Think of it like we can bring in the tools and do the minimum most effective thing. And then once you start feeling better, it feels totally doable to do all this stuff. So don't start with the hard stuff like diet. Like start with your neurotransmitters so you have the energy and you feel good to
Mhm.
even be able to make these other changes.
Right? Yeah. And also, we're always coming at things from like a root cause approach. And so what we're telling you is not stuff that's just going to put a band-aid on it. It's like actually going to hopefully
Yeah.
solve the problem from the root cause approach. And I
Yeah.
think, again, conventional medicine, if you just go to your gynecologist or something, they may just say, here's an SSRI and here's some birth control. And those things can help for a while, but it's not going to fix it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I will say, it's a good sign if someone feels good for the first 2 weeks of the month because your baseline inflammation can't be that high. So,
Yeah.
if birth control works for you, like amazing, but definitely makes it hard if you're trying to be, more natural, or if you're wanting to get pregnant, or if you're like transitioning through perimenopause and you don't want to be on birth control, because it's scary to find a tool that works for you and then be like, ooh, but I can't take this tool at this time. That's scary.
Oh, okay. I do have a question, and then we can move on to our health audit. If you have PMDD and you get pregnant,
Yeah.
go away while you're pregnant?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would
Okay.
assume so.
I would think so because I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah.
something
I've
to,
never actually worked with someone who has that while they're pregnant. I would assume so. Yeah. That'd
yeah.
be interesting. I could also see someone having a harder pregnancy though. Like I could see them having a really bad mood for a lot of the pregnancy because if your
Mhm.
body responds that way to hormone fluctuations, then like how are you going to handle the higher level of hormones? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're gonna be in a bad mood for a while anyway.
Yeah.
Like
Fair.
your average person.
I feel like I'd be
Uh,
in a bad mood the entire time I was pregnant, even without PMTD.
I pretty much was. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
that. Okay, cool.
Okay.
What?
So health audit.
Yeah.
I have seen a lot of videos of people being like, stop meditating like a monk to regulate your nervous system and to get, keep yourself in rest, heal, and digest instead of in fight or flight, and dance like to hip hop, like to anything. Have you seen these videos of people just like cranking
Yeah.
it out?
I've seen all of the really spiritual people call it ecstatic dance, and
Yeah.
they're just like flailing around, and that's cool for them. Would probably not.
JD's not into it.
It is just so not in my personality. Maybe I'm just too reserved or something, but like you're probably not gonna catch me doing that.
That's awesome. I don't know that I do interpretive dance style, but like I will say if I dance like college throwback kind of dance, like
Sure.
that gets me in a good mood. So I think there's something to this. I think
Yeah, like if I'm like at a wedding and like all the songs that everyone knows comes on and everyone's doing all the dances, like sure, I'll totally do that.
yeah.
I think I'm thinking of the people that are like, and I'm not trying to like make
Doing the
fun of
super
anyone.
weird out there dance.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just not my vibe.
Yeah.
And but yeah, people like swear by it. They're like, yeah, just go like move your body. Just go like crazy dance. And I'm like, okay.
You know what? It makes sense to me because if you're in a freeze, the fastest way to help physically get out of a freeze is movement because your body's like, oh, we're running. We're releasing this. Like we're moving. We're not dead. So it makes sense to me.
It does. And like even in therapy, if people have a lot of like built up energy or they are freezing or they have a lot of trauma, we always say your trauma is stored in your body because it is. And so one of the things that some therapists will suggest people do is to like shake their hands, like vigorously shake their hands, shake their legs, whatever. So
Yes.
I totally think that this is a valid thing to do. And if you want to dance to do that, great. That's just like not my vibe. I would probably go work out or go on a run or I don't know.
You can go for a run and I'll just be ecstatic dancing in the corner.
I'll just do laps around the field and you
And I'll
can
be in the middle of the field.
so
Yeah.
yes, overall I agree. I think moving your body in that kind of like not serious way.
Yeah. So we're a yes for dancing. It probably can't be a type of dance you hate or feel really awkward about, or that won't release your nervous system.
Yeah. So maybe you should just be alone at your
Yeah, or just dance to like Usher. Like dance
there
to
you go.
do some throwbacks. Don't feel like you have to find something new.
Yeah. And I'll just take off on a run. I'm probably not gonna dance.
There
So
you go. Perfect.
yeah, it's valid.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. This was fun.
Yeah, we'll catch you in the next one.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly reset. If you loved hanging out with us today, subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share this with a friend who could use a little calm and connection too.
This show is for education and inspiration, not medical advice. To learn more or connect with us, check out the show notes below. Until next time, take care of your mind, your body, and your heart.